Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 19 of
Yeah,
Pop
19.
Cult X. Wow, we've been doing this for 19 episodes now, and it's only getting better, I hope. I'm your host, co-host, of course, Daniel. Along with me, as always, is Gabriel.
Hello.
And so, Gabe, it's been quite a week for you, I think, and I know there's been lots of pop culture rumblings and stuff going on in the world. But just for our listeners who might be tuning in for the first time and they didn't neglected to go back and listen to our other 18 episodes, can you give us a little brief overview of what pop culture means to you, just like a little refresher?
Yeah, I think pop culture is really like what is getting attention in, mainstream society, whether it be music, I almost said videos, but music, television, film, fashion, trends, like everything that's sort of like buzzworthy that people have conversations around the water cooler, or they used to when people used to actually go to work and not, I guess now maybe on a Zoom meeting before you start talking business, like what people are like, oh, did you see last night, or did you hear about such and
Hmm.
such? So really, kind of the things that are just really popping in culture at the moment, like anything that's really kind of newsworthy or noteworthy. So we try to cover everything and under the sun when it comes to, I think fun. We try to keep it like lighthearted. I don't think we necessarily go into like politics so much, but just fun stuff, like what makes us happy, and what's popular out there, what's trending.
Right. Right, I hear you. And you said music television. Those are the first two things you said, which I thought was really cool because MTV just celebrated their 40th anniversary. You know, MTV where they used to play music videos.
Yeah, it honestly,
So,
like MTV was such a big thing in my life. Like growing up, watching Michael Jackson videos, Madonna videos, Prince. I mean, they're like just iconic artists making these like really amazing videos. And I don't know if the people really do that anymore. I know like there's videos that are you know noteworthy or kind of catch the attention of a lot of people, but
mhm.
I mean, I remember them announcing like, okay, this week is going to be the new Michael Jackson video, like tune in, and like being really
Right,
excited
right.
to see it, and like you had to like tune in on to MTV and turn your television on at a specific time to be able to watch it. And I guess now it's like going on YouTube or uh something online to be able to see it. But I mean, even when they started getting into television shows, like we've talked about how much I liked the Real World and reality shows that they had. They really were like the on the forefront of that. They created, I think,
Right. They
reality
created
television.
the reality TV. Yeah. I
Yeah.
was watching on Paramount Plus channel. I think they're doing the Real World Reunions show.
Hmm.
So I saw like the first episode of that. The cast of the very first Real World in New York City went back into the loft. So it was really cool seeing how they've aged along with us, and they're also Gen Xers as well. And it was just like seeing comparing them from when it first started in '92 to where they are at today, 30 years late, almost 30 years later. And it's just like wow, it's like they grew up, they started almost that real reality TV genre, and it's just really cool.
Yeah. And just in representation, when it comes to representation, like having people like Norm, who was like really one of the first like bi or gay men that was on television, that was like a normal person, that was like not scary, not
Mm,
like it was
gotcha.
just him. It
Hmm.
was just like all every all the stereotypes and all of the negative things. It was just like him presenting himself as like as he is, and having the clashes of different cultures coming together, like southerner and someone
Hmm.
that's from like urban areas of New York. It was such a good, amazing, groundbreaking show. I loved watching it, and I loved the reunion. The reunion was really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool stuff. Um, Also, another since we're talking groundbreaking stuff, I noticed in the Olympics this year they had two relay races that were mixed gendered. So they did like a 4x100 in track mixed gendered races. So they had two men and two women running. And they also did the same thing in swimming. They had two men and two women. I'd never heard of that before, and I
Yeah,
thought
I've
that
never
was
heard of
really
that yet.
cool. It's just like so they're just mixing them, and I just think that it just really shows how we're trying to, be very inclusive and, just get everyone involved there. And I think it's really cool that they're doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know how it matters. I know there's people that are like, "Oh, well, men are inherently stronger or faster or such and such," but like that's really not true. I mean, there's people that,
Hmm.
women that are much faster than us just because we're men. I mean, it's like that whole science of like race or gender and how people want to have everything in a box, and it's like who cares? Like at this day and age, it's like, and even at my age, I'm just like, I don't care. Like let whoever wants to run, like let whoever wants to compete or participate. And I really could I just I can't even bring myself to care that much about telling people they can't do something. Like, if that
Hmm.
makes sense.
I
It's
hear
like
you.
it takes so much effort for those people to, like, hate on, transgender people or on women or whatever it is.
Right.
It's like, it's so exhausting. It's like, isn't everyone just, like, tired of doing that? Like,
Right.
just, like, relax, like, enjoy your life. Right? Like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just
Right. Just enjoy it.
my age where I'm just, like, over it, but it's just like, I don't know, it literally exhausts me to hear stuff like that, and which kind of reminds me of, like, the other thing that's kind of really trending, which, like, at first was humorous, but then it kind of annoyed me the more I started reading about it, and it was the whole, thing with Matt Damon. I don't know if you heard about,
Mm-hmm.
what
I
he
heard
said.
about
I'm
that.
bringing
Yeah.
it up because I wanna actually, like, read the quote of what he said. Sent it to myself here real hold on one second. So I guess he was getting interviewed and he admitted to using the F slur, I guess is what people now call it, which is a derogatory term that people use towards gay men or gay people. And he was saying in a recent interview that he recalled having a discussion with his daughter where he was attempting to contextualize for her the progress that's been made, and talked about growing up in Boston as a child. He heard that word used a lot on the street, and even before what he quote knew what it referred to. And he explained to her that the word was used constantly and casually, and was even a line of dialogue in a movie that he was in as recently as 2003. She in turn expressed her, incredulity that there could have ever been a time where that word was used unthinkingly. And
Hmm.
he kind of, I this goes to about, like, I want to talk about like what made him talk about this, but he says, to my admiration and pride, she was extremely articulate about the extent to which the word would have been painful to someone in the LGBTQ plus community, regardless of how culturally normalized it was. I not only agreed with her, but thrilled at her passion, values, and desire for social justice. And then he goes on to say that he's retired the word. And the thing that was so shocking is, one, he's like saying this out loud to someone. Like he's
Hmm.
basically admitting that he's using like derogatory, inflammatory, like language around his
Right.
like, around his family, like his daughter, which is kind of crazy to me. And I think when I was thinking about it, I'm like, what is making him bring this up to a reporter who's like obviously going to report it? And I think that in his like liberal, like, I'm woke, a woke white man, like, look at how proud I am of my daughter, like she's fighting for gay rights and she's defending gay people. But like, I don't think he realized that he was, by doing so, he was admitting to something really horrible.
Hmm.
And he since has backtracked and said that, that he didn't he didn't really use the word, or like he was in a role. And I just I find it shocking that in this day and age that stars aren't trained by their PR people or management teams to say, we're not going to admit that we use the F word in public. Like that
Right.
should be obvious to people. Like and
Right. Right.
I mean, forget about the morality of like using the word itself, but then like have the intelligence to not then make a whole statement about how you used it and now you're going to retire it because you're
How
letting a
you
white
having a
guy that's supposed
retirement
to
speech for it?
be
Yeah.
sad to use it. And it was just like really crazy to me that he admitted that. Like it's so outlandish to me. Like, and this is from like a person who's supposed to be like one of the good guys. Like he's a liberal. Like
Right.
and so that always makes me kind of like step back when, as a queer person of color, like add a bunch of labels to me, whatever. Like when you see someone that's supposed to be like an ally and you see that like he's using the F word. So like what does he really think about gay people? Or if someone kind of shows that they're racist or that they have some sort of other prejudice that and it's coming from like the quote good people, it's like it makes you feel so I don't know, like it's depressing. It's like if that's what the good people are saying, like imagine what the quote bad people are saying about you or about your
Right.
community. And I don't know, it was really shocking that he said that and of course that the media like picked it up and then like ran with it because it's like sensational or whatever. But I don't know. What were your thoughts? Did you hear about the article or like
I
story?
I just saw the headline, so I knew of it,
Uh
and it just when I read that when I first saw it, I was like, whoa, why did he have to go? I guess and admit to it, like you said, to a reporter that, oh yeah, I stopped using that. Well, that should have been a no brainer. You don't have to go and like tell everyone, hear ye, I stopped using this.
right?
It just kind of makes you wonder, okay, what else are you using that you haven't retired?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was kind of awkward, and I'm hoping that he did not mean anything negative, or maybe it just came across weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
In his mind, he was promoting his daughter, but he didn't think of how it would make him look. I don't know. Maybe he just wasn't thinking that far ahead. We all have moments where we say dumb things. I don't
Yeah.
know. But other than that, he really hasn't done anything to be seen in a negative light, right? So is one of the times where we should probably
Well,
give him a benefit of the doubt, or has he?
so as more articles come out, like he apparently has now a track record of like kind of opening his mouth and speaking on things that he probably shouldn't be speaking about.
Okay.
So when the Me Too movement came out, he had a couple statements that he was making in defense of like Al Franken, and to kind of sum it up, it was sort of like there's in his mind, in his words, he was saying like there's a difference between let's say you pat someone on the butt, and which is can be seen as harassment or inappropriate behavior, and then there's like raping a child, and he's like, okay, they're not the same things. Both people
Hmm.
should be held accountable, but like he was basically trying to say like we can't keep put everyone in the same box that like is accused of like sexual harassment or rape or whatever. um but I think like it's like in that time when the Me Too movement is coming, it's like you have to step back and say, okay, this is a movement for women or for people who are victims of that of that movement. So like people who had been sexually assaulted or discriminated against or
Hmm.
felt to be less than because of their gender or what have you. So it's like as a straight white man, like it's not really the time to be like, well,
Right.
let's dissect this issue and let me share my feelings about it. It's like no, like this is the time for us to listen to what these women have to say and then make
Right.
changes accordingly. And so
No,
I,
you're right. Yeah.
I get where he's coming from. Like he's not like an evil person. He's not like Hitler. He has like I mean I think he has well intentions of like trying to communicate that he is an ally. That it's like okay, well I don't use that word anymore. But then it's like, but you were using the
Right.
F word like in 2003 or like before or you know yes child rape is like the worst kind of assault that there is, but like that doesn't mean that other types of assault are any less evil or that the victims of those type of crimes feel any better. Like, well, at least I wasn't raped as a
Hmm.
kid. It's weird logic that you're kind of
Right. Right.
utilizing. And
Hmm.
so I think that again, when that happened during the whole Me Too movement, you would have assumed that like his PR or marketing or whoever he has, his handlers would have said, "Hey Matt, like let's not go on Twitter or let's not have conversations about things that are hot right now and let's just step back and like let the movement unfold in front of your eyes, and then like when they have their moment, then you can talk about it. It's sort of like the Black Matters movement. Like it's not the time for like all lives matter. Like it's
Right.
the Black Lives Matter movement. So like this is their moment to share what their experience is and to speak and for us to listen, not to then like, oh, okay, well now let's go ahead and co-opt that movement and let me share my opinion or like my perspective on it. Like, no, you've shared your opinion and your perspective as like a straight white man, like for ever from the beginning. So like let's
Hmm.
give the other people that don't have an opportunity to share that, like let's allow them to take the mic for like one movement. And
Exactly.
so I mean, I don't want him to be canceled. I don't want him to like not. I mean, to be honest, I've never really seen his movies. I've never seen the Bourne Identity or Bourne movies. Like it,
Hmm.
I don't really buy him as like a super spy because like he's like it's really bad. But I'm like he's like a little guy. Like I don't really see him as like a threat, right? Uh, or like someone who's really formidable when it comes to a movie. But one of the last movies I think that I saw of his that I think maybe I kept the personality attached to him was the Brendan Fraser movie where what is it, Good Ties or I forget what it's called, but it's Brendan Fraser is like a Jewish football player that gets a scholarship to
Oh, okay. I know what
like
you
a
mean. Yeah,
prep
yeah. I
school,
know.
and
Hmm.
all these like WASP kind of kids, you know, that are like rich and just super white and non-ethnic, like identify him as a Jew and then start like harassing him. And Matt Damon's like
Hmm.
one of the worst, and he just kind of has that air about him of like that like. I mean, I don't know. He could have come from like the slums of Boston for all I know, but he just kind of has that like preppy frat boy, like I don't know. So I've never really,
I mean, Goodwill Hunting for me is my always takeaway from Matt Damon. You know
yeah,
that
I never saw
that from the street type of thing, and he's smarter than he not appears to be, but smarter than people give him credit for, I guess. So that's what I mean. That, and I think The Martian, where I
I
like.
didn't see that one either. See, that's what I'm saying. Like I've like and I pretty much like watch and see everything. And but he's just one of those people that I'm like, like Reese
Meh.
Witherspoon. Or I mean, there's like a list, a laundry list of people that I'm just like I don't really care for them all that much. But anyway, I've killed that horse for sure. Uh, but in another like sort of follow up, I guess that we had in our last podcast is the ensuing drama regarding the baby and his anti-gay or homophobic comments. And now I guess the big news is that he's apologized and he has
Hmm.
been canceled from like 6 different festivals, and so like it's definitely hit his wallet. And now he's
Hmm.
saying, people were really quick to kind of jump on the like cancel bandwagon. And he and the thing that like my takeaway from all of this is that it's obviously going to be a good learning experience for him. But when you say or do something that's wrong, part of your apology is that you don't demand people to forgive you. You say I'm sorry, and then you
Right.
deal with the consequences. Part of the
Uh
consequences
huh.
of your actions could be that they don't forgive you, right? Like
Yeah, that's true.
it's like
Hmm.
it's such a weird thing that like, oh well, I said I'm sorry. Like now you're gonna cancel me. Well, yeah, like it was like 2 hours ago. Like I'm still mad. Like let me have my moment of being mad at you because you said some like really disgusting things. And
Hmm.
in order for us to believe that your apology was legit and heartfelt, like we have to see some behaviors that come after that that make us believe that you really are for asking for forgiveness or change or like educating yourself. But it's a little off-putting to have someone like say like, oh, you were so quick to cancel me. Like, well, yeah, like you said some really shitty things and
Hmm.
we don't want you at the party. Like I don't understand how people that say like really shitty things like that don't understand that like the rest of us are going to be like, you're not cool, you're not invited to the party.
Right.
Like and maybe that should be motivation for more people to educate themselves and not be dicks. Is you're not going to be invited to the cool parties. Like you can't sit with the cool kids because you're uneducated and ignorant. Like And
Hmm.
it's not on the gay community to educate the baby. It's not on like black people to educate racist white people or people of color to educate white people. Like you go Google shit. Like go open a book, learn stuff. Like in this day and age, if you know that you need to be educated on certain things, right? Like as men,
Yeah.
we have the privilege of our gender. And so like take a feminist course, like learn about the history of what it means to be a woman and how the struggles that the but don't like turn to your wife or like your sister and be like, educate me. Like tell me what it's like. That's not her responsibility. Like you know what I'm saying? Like it's just like it's so frustrating when people are like, well, you know I'm ignorant, so why didn't you educate me? Do it for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you.
You have a
I
computer,
completely
you
get.
have like Google, go ask Jeeves.
Hmm.
Don't bother me with trying to teach you about,
Ask
gay rights.
Jeeves. Yeah. I think though you're absolutely right though. I mean, what we talked about the last time, it was, will he um take it as a learning experience, or will he just apologize once it starts hitting his wallet? And I think I made the comment where people who, it will start showing up when it does hit the wallet. Like, and he got canceled from those festivals, and he's seen his rising fame, I guess, start to dwindle, and then of course he has to make a change. Now, hopefully, it wasn't just lip service, and hopefully his poorly worded apology was a true turning point for him.
Yeah.
Um, but I guess maybe it's just maybe the optimist in me, where I like to see maybe the best in everyone, and hopefully that everyone will learn from their mistakes. But who knows? Only time will
Yeah,
tell, I
like only
guess.
time will tell, right? Like, I mean, someone else that I kind of thought about was Eminem and how he was very like misogynistic and homophobic, and then how Elton John sort of embraced him and I mean, kind of gave him the okay, like it's okay to like him or it's okay that he said those things, which all kind of rubbed me the wrong way because I mean, I still think that the majority of his music is like super misogynistic. Like even still,
Hmm.
like I never it never sat well with me that like all of his lyrics were like he wants to kill his ex wife or he's gonna and just like the lyrics are horrible. Like when you listen to like the song that he did with Rihanna, where it's like he's gonna burn the house down, and like the lyrics are crazy that it's a pop song. Like that like people are okay with that is just insane to me. But that it's okay within like the hip hop realm or like rock and roll or in pop culture. It shouldn't be. Like I don't know if that song could be released today. I hope not, but it I mean, did he really change? Like he just got like approval from like a gay icon to like, oh, it's okay that he's said X, Y, and Z. He's an artist, or like we understand his background, but I don't think he ever like really changed how he was as a person. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of people that are like that. That like we give them a pass, and they really never change, or they never really
Hmm.
their behavior never changes to be an ally or to be better understanding of like situations like misogyny or racism or anything. But hopefully that the baby is not like that where like he tries to get assistance with like some gay icon and they say, oh, it's okay, like he's learned, and it's like, no, I want to see him like actually just being accepting and embracing and like tour with like Little Nas X, like do a video or a song
Yeah.
with him and
Yeah.
like
Right.
educate yourself and I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's I'm not a fan of his music, so like I don't even know if I'll ever see it unless it becomes like a super big hit. But yeah, I guess the future will tell, right?
Right. Right. So another thing I saw that you mentioned, and this really gets into the meat of the topic for this episode, is with body positivity and acceptance, is Jonah Hill's new look.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was, I saw his tattoo. It was like a take on like the body glove
Hmm.
logo, and he had like the thing on his shoulder, right?
Yeah.
And then his new haircut and new look, which I thought was cool. I mean, I've seen Jonah Hill from back in the days of like Super Bad to and his weight fluctuations for different roles and just how he's going through life, I guess. And it's really cool that he's, you know, finally accepting that this is who I'm going to be. This is who I am.
Yeah.
Who cares if you don't like it or not? This is what makes me happy.
Yeah.
And just one brief comment when I saw one picture of his bleached hair that was pulled back, I think, and it was a little long. When I first saw that, thought I was looking at like Jim Carrey and Lemony Snicket when he has that pulled back
Yeah.
hairstyle. So I don't know. It's just what went into my head the first thing I saw of him. But it's really cool. I mean, if I always look to Jonah Hill because I see him and Seth Rogen are two of the people I look at because I share like a similar body style to them. So I look at them and say, hey, if they can make it, maybe I can too. So I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Like they have that like what is it called? Like everyman or like average Joe kind of
Yeah.
appeal. And I think that
Hmm.
that's what makes them so popular is that people like us can relate to them. They're not like the typical leading actor.
Hmm.
Something that Jonah Hill said in his Instagram post about his acceptance is like he admitted that like he never even swam without a shirt until like his
Right.
30s. And me growing up like extra chubby and like I think there was an age when like I was like really free and then I can almost remember like when the first person made a comment like, "Oh, like you're really chubby," or like whatever, and then immediately that shame, like you're introduced as a child to like, oh, that's what shame is. Like, oh, that feels really
Hmm.
bad. And then like I started swimming
Hmm.
with the shirt on. I like was really self-conscious of like clothes being too tight. Like I started wearing really baggy clothes because and so I completely relate to that. And it's so sad that we have to do that to each other, right? Like that like you see a
Right.
kid who is probably, for all intents and purposes, happy with themselves, and then someone introduces shame to them, whether it be
Yep.
like an
Yep.
overbearing parent that has their own
An
issues that
ant or
like
something. Yeah.
affects that on their kid, or an older brother or sister, or like an uncle or aunt, or like a neighbor, blah 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 blah. Like someone is the person that like knocks them down and says like, "Hey, you should be ashamed of your body." And
Right.
that's so sad, like, because it totally changes your, like, the trajectory that you're going, like and I think for so
Hmm.
many people that have body issues, like, you think like, what would it have been, at least for me, let me speak for myself, like, what would it have been if I did have that confidence? Like if I could walk into a room when I was young, younger and like own who I am and what I look like and who, everything that I encompass and have that confidence, like maybe I would have had that job. Maybe I would have succeeded in other areas. And, I don't regret anything because I'm glad where I'm at and like the path that my life has taken. However, it's interesting when you kind of think about like what if and if only you had that self-confidence in yourself from your earlier age. But I think
Right.
that a good lesson to hear from that is that it's never too late. Like I don't know how old he is. He's what, in his late 30s maybe.
He's probably around our age,
Yeah, like,
I would
probably,
think. Yeah.
and that he is now accepting it is cool, like, it's never too late, like, because then you start to have issues with age too, right? Like, well, my body's too wrinkly or too saggy or too whatever, and at a certain point, it's like, "Why do I care?" Like, what other people
Hmm.
think about me is so unimportant. It like, that's their business, let them have their issue, like, I'm gonna accept myself, I'm gonna walk into the room and own it and be like, "This is who I am." And it's a really good segue into the interview that I had with our next guest, who has some of the same issues, that has talked famously about weight issues, body acceptance, just really kind of owning who you are as a person and um, not living for the expectations what other people put on you, but like what
Right.
makes you happy. And so to introduce the guest, it's Ashley Nell Tipton, who is a designer icon in the fashion world
Yes.
from here in San Diego. The first kind of way that I learned about her is by watching as a fan on Project Runway season
Me too.
14.
Hmm.
And really, I mean, almost immediately being drawn to her because I thought that she had such a really sweet personality. She sort of wore her emotions on her sleeve, which I like about people who are vulnerable and not afraid to show their emotions. But like most importantly, I loved her designs, and she won, and I was super happy. Like I remember watching it and really being like super stoked that she won. And so we talked about where she has gone from that moment. It's been a couple years since she won, and surprisingly, how winning Project Runway wasn't really what made her happy, or put her in a place that like other people would think, oh, you're on top of the world. You just won a really competitive fashion reality show, and
Hmm.
you're gonna go design, and you're gonna be on the cover. Your clothes are gonna be on the cover of Vogue, and oh, you're set, like happily ever after. But it doesn't work out that way because life isn't so simple. And so we talked about her new focus, which is kind of living life in like a different way of thinking and reprogramming your brain to uh, you know to be happy and to not make the same mistakes that you made before, and really accepting yourself. And so anyway, let's go ahead and listen to our conversation,
Yeah,
and kind of hear it from Ashley
hear it from
herself,
herself.
and then we'll come back and talk about it. Thank you once again, Ashley, Nell, Tipton, for being here with us here at Pop Cult X. I like I shared with you a little bit earlier. I'm a really big fan of yours from your time on Project Runway and your design work. One of the things that I wanted to kind of start off with you is, what are some of the things that people are like maybe misinformed or have a misperception about you coming from Project Runway?
That I'm a crybaby, but I am a crybaby. Um, I think what people may have misinformed of like how sensitive, like I came off as a really sensitive person and always crying off of the show, and I think that was just a part of me at that time growing up, and I did a lot of growing after Project Runway, and um I've become this stronger person who doesn't really listen to everyone's opinion and doesn't really need their validation, and I still cry, but my crying is just the way that I show my emotion, or I'm in tune with what I feel. um I don't I try thinking of that when
Yeah,
you say
absolutely.
that question, and um I'm just me. And it surprises me how people perceive me. Because I think coming off this show, people just thought I was so confident, and I wasn't confident. For so many years, I was actually really, really depressed, and I'm actually the most confident that I have ever been in my life, and that's now. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I can think of that people have a wrong perceive of me.
hmm I think it's a really interesting dynamic, I'm sure, for you, having been on a quote reality show and people thinking that they know you. So I always find it interesting of it must be surreal, like a dream. Like people must come up to you and think that they're your friend, or like maybe even have like anger or animosity towards you because maybe they didn't like how you were perceived on the show. And so I mean, I just think that it's such a unique, must be such a unique experience for someone to come off of a reality show and then kind of go back to the real world and have to function and work, and have people that are strangers to you come up thinking that they know you.
Yeah, like that's something that I never fully thought about going on a reality show and what the aftermath would be. The only thing I could think of was not getting eliminated the first day. And so being there, being on this reality TV show from the start to the ending, and then coming home and trying to live my life the same way I was before, and realizing that that will never be there again, that my life has changed from this very moment because I made this one decision. And it's something that is going to take a process for me to understand, because nobody trains you, nobody tells you, nobody really knows what it's like, and nobody really talks about it. Nobody talks about being on reality TV and then coming off of it. It's something that not a lot of people get that opportunity to. And we don't talk about it because we're all under contract not to. So it's this
Uh,
it's this place where you can't help but feel alone and depressed, and the only people who you feel that you can connect with are the people who were either on the show with you or who share that experience of being on some type of reality TV. That I grew a lot of bond with um my drag queen girls from Drag Race. Like, they loved watching Project Runway, and they were huge fans of mine, and I'm a huge fan of RuPaul's Drag Race and them, all as individuals and as their characters, and to be able to talk to them and tell them what I experience and what they experience is a whole nother level. Like, I think right when I was going on Project Runway, that's when social media and influencers and reality TV was all starting to combine, and how people were becoming famous off of online. And it was this huge transition where a lot of us didn't really understand it, and we were just entertainers, and we just so happened to be put in this lane.
mhm. Yeah, I think that as a fan, as a consumer of pop culture and reality shows, I can see how toxic the fandom can be, and that's something that is so scary because I'm a fan of yours, like, and I doing some research, I've kind of went into the social media and the internet and started looking at some interviews that you've done, and I saw that you did have some backlash from people, and it made me so sad because I thought, here, my perception of it is, you won this great reality show contest, you're young, you're got all of this attention, and I would figure you feel like you're on top of the world, but then I see that it's not like that. There's this really negative part of it that comes with it, and I don't know, it hurt my heart for you. I felt so bad that you had to go through that, but how did that change you? Like, how did that make you stronger? You said that you're now stronger than you've ever been. How did that experience change you for the better?
I think it made me realize that I didn't need a TV show. I didn't need people to validate that I am a great designer. It's like I need to believe in myself. And it's crazy that I got all these people to believe in how it's not even that I have to make them believe it. They just can see that I'm a talented designer, and I have this negative a mindset that I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. And that's what came off on the show. And it's like, I didn't need to go on the show. I didn't need to do any of these things to prove to myself that I am good enough, that I should have just believed in myself. And so going through this journey, I'm very, very grateful for it. And I did. I put myself through to finally figure out if I have what it takes. And it's like, well, Ashley, now you got to take all the negativity, all the things that comes with it, and you got to learn and you got to grow from it, and you have to learn that people are always going to say negative things, and you do not have the choice, or it's not in your power to change their minds. You don't have to change their mind. People can have their opinions, but what matters is how you allow that to affect you. And I realized that no one has control over my feelings. I am the only person that has control over my feelings. So if anybody has anything negative to say about me, that is their opinion, and they're allowed to say it. And I just have to know that I am not anything like I have to be confident in who I am and reassure myself. And it's this full-time job that I'm doing because it's like I have to reprogram my mind to think a different way than I've been raised to think. Um and there's this thing that I still continue to do, and I apologize for every little thing I do. And it's like, you need to stop being apologetic, Ashley. Like, that makes you look even less confidence. Um, like, even if I bumped into some, not even bump into somebody, even if I put my cell phone down and I accidentally, like, did something, like, I say sorry, or, like, there doesn't need to be a sorry with it. It's just I'm so used to trying to move out of people's way and not be in the way that I shouldn't think that way anymore, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
absolutely. No, it totally does. I think that I feel very much the same way in the a lot of times in my life, I've been so desperate to get that acknowledgement from people, especially from an artistic and a creative perspective, because you do put so much of your heart in your art, right? You're expressing your insides and your feelings and your creativity. So you want people to say, "Oh, that's beautiful," but it really doesn't change. Like if they don't like it or they do, your work still exists, and you still have the right as an artist to be able to express yourself. And if they don't like it, then that's fine. But it's so hard, I think, for people to get to that spot to say, people are allowed to have their opinions. Some people may like it, some people may not, but that person's opinion is really none of your business. Like, so I'm so glad that you have been able to get to that spot. Like, I'm really happy for you. I know that since winning Project Running, you've had a lot of projects. You're working for J.C. Penney on a line there, and a lot of consulting for plus line lines, and also some jewelry that I see you have selling right now on your site,
Yeah.
which is really really cool. A lot of statement pieces. I think they're really beautiful. But I was a little shocked to go onto your YouTube channel and see one of the first videos that came up and say, why did I quit fashion, or why am I no longer doing that? And can you speak to that a little bit more? Like, that's a pretty provocative statement. So is Ashley no longer doing fashion?
um so the me coming out with this video saying that I'm no longer doing fashion design was a way of me telling people, "Hey, I'm tired. There's a pandemic happening right now, and I don't feel like there's a need for me as a clothing designer to be happening right now. So I'm going to quit designing right now and pivot into something that is going to be useful for people, and something to save lives. Like, I have always been a person to help other people, and I can't ask people to buy my designs when it's not a necessity. A necessity is trying to stay alive and deal with this whole COVID thing happening. And I just felt like I had to reevaluate my passion and what this world was about to go through, because I don't think any of us knew what was going to happen, but I just knew that we were going to go through something that, um it's almost like we had to put our helmets on and, like, get ready for this, because I already felt like I was sinking in my business. I already felt like I was like having to think of the next thing I was going to do in the fashion world. And when I say I felt exhausted, I felt like fast fashion is happening so quickly that it's tearing us independent designers apart. It's not allowing people to appreciate things made in the US, things that are made by independent designers, not things that are mass produced in thousands and hundreds of thousands of units and that can be found in, like, multiple stores or online. I didn't want to do that anymore. Like I wanted to help this environment, like have sustainable fashion. There was all these things I wanted to do, but I just feel like we were placed in fashion. I just felt like we were in a place in fashion where people were not appreciating the art. They were just appreciating the trends and how quickly they could get their hands on something. And I was tired of that. And I think, everything happened in its right timing, or maybe things in my life was happening in the right timing and I just wasn't understanding it. And then the pandemic happened and I saw that there is a need for face mask, and I said, like, I have all the knowledge to be able to build a production team, to be able to get all these units of mask out to people who need it. And overnight we switched our business, and I was making masks and people were so unhappy, so upset that I was making money off of a pandemic. And me creating this video was more of like, for me, is like, I'm tired of you constantly asking me, why aren't you designing? What are you doing? Why aren't you doing this? When I'm a human, I have the choices to do what I want, not to do things what people think I should be doing. I love being creative, but I'm so tired of creating for this fashion world that is in a different place right now. Like I want to help the world. Like that's
Mhm.
something that I've always been passionate about, is helping people. And and I'm so glad that I did what I did, and making face masks allowed me to free up my mind and enjoy creating something that was so different, and then be able to come back to this fashion industry and have a different mindset.
That's great that you were able to do sort of like that reset. One of the things you mentioned is how you've always wanted to give back to other people, and how you that's really speaks to like the core of who you are. And I think that's a great time for us to kind of segue into another project that you have, which is your YouTube series. And if I could have you speak to that, because I think it's really great. I've been able to log in and see a lot of the episodes that you've been doing with your co-host and manager, and it really speaks to me. Like I'm like, okay, I need to subscribe to this because this is so beneficial, and I think it would help so many people to be able to learn how to love themselves, and how to move on from trauma and events that may have occurred in their life that really kind of set them on a certain path and kind of reprogram the computer in their brain. So tell us about that project. What
Yeah.
is it about, and why are you so passionate about it?
So, my Love You show on YouTube is something that me and my manager, Andrew, who is my CFO of my business, my second father, my mentor, my therapist, everything, love him to pieces. Um, Ever since Andrew has been working with me in my business, he's seen the highs and lows that I've gone through, and has seen me suffer so much that he's reached out his hand and was like, "Let me help you. Let's figure this out." And so he's helped me from like changing the way that I think about myself and my self-esteem and my weight and my business and all these things. And we've always wanted to take this material that he's taught me and share it with the world, share it with this plus size community, any community, because the more and more that I'm here and I give myself to the world, I see all types of people that it tracks. So I've always wanted to create material that is for everyone. And I just wanted a place where people can take my life experiences and see how I've done things and see the rawness of how difficult it is, but how freeing it is once you do it. And we've wanted to do a camp. We've done workshops before in person, but ever since the pandemic happened, and doing face masks, that allowed us to make money to be able to support a YouTube channel. And we've had this YouTube channel for about a year now, and it's not making us any money. That was never the point to make money. It was always the point to be able to spread this material. And we wanted to make sure that we had the money to support a videographer to take our information that we have and put it on YouTube, because we don't know how to do any of that stuff. Like, I truly believe in hiring people to help you um, get to where you need to get the job done. Like, I can't learn how to do videography. I'm a fashion designer, so I'm gonna find the right people on my team to make this happen. And I'm so happy that we've had this show for a year, because we really never scripted it how we wanted it. We just kind of had a mission of where we wanted how we wanted to tell people all this information. And then it just so happened that life happens, and you go through a breakup, and you have these life experiences and these goals. And I'm just very thankful that Andrew allowed me to put this online and really show people the rawness of how we work these issues out. And how I can just share with you guys and not be ashamed of it, and like just be completely genuine and raw with everyone.
Nice. What one thing that I think that we share in common is we both have lost a lot of weight recently. I've lost about 80 pounds, and you've spoken about your weight loss journey. Something that I didn't really expect was how people treat you differently when you have a big weight loss. Not only just from a society's point of view, where now you're conforming to what they want you to look like, but also people within the acceptance community, where they maybe there's a perception of, because you have lost weight, that you're not fully engaged in body acceptance, and it's a really weird dynamic. And I think for me, it was definitely health related. I had a bit of a health scare, and so I figured, okay, this is my wake up call. Like, I'm either going to get healthy, or I'm going to be dealing with these problems for the rest of my life. And have you faced that? Have you
Oh my
you're such a
God.
positive person and have been so supportive of the body acceptance movement, but now that people see that you've lost weight, have you had sort of a little bit of a backlash with that, like that you're doing a 180?
Oh yeah, I've had 100% backlash. Um, I kept it a secret that I was having weight loss surgery for maybe 2 months after I had surgery. And when I announced that I had surgery, I had announced it to People's Magazine. I think I was so high off of pain medication for my surgery that I was like, this is the way I got to do it. And so I gave People Magazine the exclusive just because I thought it would be some type of powerful statement. I don't know what I was thinking. And it just became a huge backlash. And that's not what I wanted. I wanted people to understand that I was doing this because, yes, I had a health scare and I weighed 404 pounds, and I was tired of living this unhealthy lifestyle, um, and being on cloud nine in my career, but not being able to enjoy it because I was in so much pain. I was so insecure. um I was depressed. I would wake like traveling and being a big person is so hard. It's so hard. And I was spending
Yeah.
weeks at a time away from home and traveling and like not feeling confident in myself, that it was just like an exhausting thing going back and forth, that I was like, enough is enough.
you talking about your weight loss and your decision to really to be healthy, and with now your new project that you're working on, your show with well-being. I just kind of wanted to talk quickly about, how do you practice self-care? What are some of the things that you do that really help you be healthy, physically and mentally? What are some maybe some tips that you can share with our listeners? And certainly, I know I kind of know the answer because I went to your website, but um, who are people that watch your show? What can they do to kind of maybe do a quick shot of self care for themselves?
It's finding that thing that, I mean, for me, it's staying active. That is the most important thing for me because I know how much I invested into doing this and getting where I'm at right now. So I think is obviously listening to my body is one. Um Finding something that gets me moving. Either it's finding a great training trainer and people to work out with, or it's finding a hobby to do, either hiking or like I just got into roller skating. So I'm trying to find new
Nice.
things that gets my heart rate going, because I know that's good for me, but I also enjoy it and I enjoy meeting the new people. And I feel like the more and more, the more and more I start to lose weight, but the more and more that I start to see the results, I feel so much confident in myself because I'm starting to see what dedication and hard work looks like, and all the time that I've invested into me is showing is paying off. Um because I am getting more energy, I'm becoming more active. I like the way that I look. Like, there's all these things that bring so much more happiness to me so that I can be there for my dogs, I can be there for my business, I um be there for my friends and family, because I always have to make sure Ashley is good. And it's a work in progress because sometimes Ashley's running on go go go, and then she hits a rock and then she wonders why she's stressed or overwhelmed. So I'm always trying to make sure Ashley's good.
Excellent. So, for those of our listeners that are interested in watching your show and learning more about what you're up to, where can they go? Well, your YouTube channel is one, obviously, and
Yes.
your website as well.
My website, and I've also joined OnlyFans for more of a creative one-on-one side. It's not sexual, not like what everybody thinks that OnlyFans is, but I joined OnlyFans to be able to show more of day to day what Ashley's doing and how to be creative or how to be able to have these conversations about self-love, self-acceptance. um so I just wanted to be able to have a safe zone for me and my followers, which it's completely free to join my OnlyFans. Um, but if there was that one-on-one time that you wanted to be able to have with me to ask me about anything, this is like the platform that we could use. Um, you can follow me on my Instagram, my YouTube, or Twitter. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Excellent. Being that I have been now watching your YouTube series, I saw a recent post that says that you recently got some great news, and so I'm encouraging people to tune into your next episode. You're going to have a really big announcement, right?
I hope so. I hope that I can announce it, at least the job position that I just got, because it's like been a dream since I was in high school, and it goes hand in hand with fashion design. So, um yeah, I'm really really excited. When is this going to be aired? Cuz maybe we
Excellent. Well, I'm excited for you. I can't wait to hear the big decision, the big news. I'll be tuning into your YouTube channel. Hopefully, all of the Pop Cult X listeners will now go and listen to your YouTube series and go to your
Yes.
OnlyFans to catch up on everything that you're doing. And once again, thank you so much. I'm so happy that I finally got to meet and talk to you.
Me
And good luck to all your future endeavors.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I feel so honored to be on your podcast. And I hope we bump into each other again or you see me and we get to talk some more.
Yeah, that was a great interview, Gabe. Thanks for taking the time to talk to Ashley and Nell Tipton about that. And I think right off the bat, one of the first things that she said that really stood out to me was how coming off of the reality TV show, how she really couldn't talk to anyone who got it, except for other reality show people who've been in that same situation, and how she was really drawn to, I think it was some of the RuPaul drag queen stars, and how they really bonded over that shared experience.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool because I hadn't really thought about that. You go on a reality TV show and you go there and you become famous and you're walking around, but the normal everyday people who watch it, we don't really have that same insight of what it's like to put yourself out there all the time and to be with a camera in your face or whatnot. And so I think it's really cool that she found acceptance within that group and she was able to share through that. And her pivot that you talked about before the episode and that she made reference to within the interview was also great, knowing that during this time what people really need is not another fashion brand. They need something that's going to be helpful to their inside, to what's
Mhm.
inside of them, as opposed to what's adorning their bodies. So I thought that was really cool. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I think that it's nice to see that someone within the fashion industry has like a heart like hers, because
Hmm.
fashion, I think the fashion industry can kind of be very heartless. They can, it's
Yeah.
very, it can be very shallow, very materialistic. Obviously labels, designs, the design industry itself is like made for the pretty people, like they're not necessarily embracing regular people. And so that's why she was such a hero to me, being that I'm not a regular quote size, that I typically you know wasn't able to buy just like off the rack off of a regular store. uh, and to see that someone was like wanting to create things for people that are all shapes and sizes, and not just make them like in a like a need, like, okay, I'm naked, I need to cover my body, but like also in an expressive, like beautiful way. Like just because you're a
Uh-huh.
bigger person doesn't mean you don't want to explore fashion, or you don't want to express yourself in that way. And so like I love people or designers that embrace that. One of the things, since we're talking about fashion, that I kind of wanted to talk to you about, because I really don't get to have a lot of conversation with people who discuss that, especially like with other guys. And I'm always curious, is like, how do you view, or let me think about how I want to word this, like, how do you look at fashion? Like, do you look at it from a sense of a need base, like you need to wear clothes, so you go and buy clothes that are durable, or that will keep you warm or keep you cool, or like do you use fashion as like a way to express yourself? Like what is your approach to, I guess, fashion?
Well, if you ask anyone that knows me, they'll probably tell you that I have no fashion sense. So, but I tend to look at it as a little bit of both. So, need based, yes. If it's hot outside, I don't want to wear a wool coat or anything. I'll put on some shorts and a tank top. And likewise, if it's cold, I'll put on the appropriate amount of clothing, which is shorts and a tank top. Because it's always going to be shorts and a tank top for me most of the time.
Yeah,
Because I like, being a little loose or whatnot. And it's my San Diego upbringing, because weather's always perfect there. So I
yeah.
feel like it's going to be perfect everywhere, no matter what it is, and shorts will always work. Um, but as for making a statement, I I really haven't really started embracing that part of it till recently. So I've recently been going on a binge where I'm buying T-shirts like Johnny Cash that really mean something to me. Like, as you know, Johnny Cash, one of my favorite musicians, and also with other shirts and stuff that really aren't blatantly um, make a statement. So, like, if I buy a shirt for a TV show or a movie or something in pop culture that I like, I want it to be something that you have to be a fan of that in order for people to understand. So
Yeah.
I don't want it to say like the name of the show or something like that. So like I bought a shirt from the show Parks and Recreation. That's the band in there. I think it's called Mouse Rat or Rat Mouse. So if you're not a fan of that show, you wouldn't understand the reference to my shirt. So just stuff like that. Little, I don't know. I'm weird like that. That's why I think I like to make a statement with is that it's just a little quirkiness. The little Easter eggs, so to speak, of my fashion that I like to throw in there. Um, but I also do think, and one of Johnny Cash's songs is "Man in Black." And I was reading the lyrics of that recently, and it's really poignant in that why he addressed why he always wears black, and he's because he's doing it for those people who are in the back, who are downtrodden, whose voices can't be heard. So he's going to be up there wearing black just to kind of symbolize that for those, to be like the voice and a vocal point for those people. So I don't know, I'm kind of hedging toward that as I'm trying to phase in more just an all black wardrobe into the mix. So yeah, I think that's about how I use fashion, and I think people with more star power or notoriety have a. I don't know if they have a responsibility, but they have a bigger um, fan base where they can make more of a point based on what they wear. So, and they can start trends, of course. So,
Yeah.
I think that's how fashion can be used positively. Positively is that method. So I do appreciate the portion of being able to make a statement with fashion.
Yeah.
And I think it is also, sorry, I also think it is a way for people to express themselves. I mean, thinking about fashion throughout the ages, there, like for women, there maybe wasn't another way for them to really express themselves. They couldn't go to school. They couldn't, be seen as an artist. So their fashion and their fashion choices were the only way they could really just express how they're feeling. And nowadays with self mindfulness and whatnot, we have many methods of doing that, but back then that was the only way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it's interesting when you start to think of like just the one thought popped into my head is fashion as like a political statement and using it to, express that sentiment, and how something so innocuous as like a woman not wearing a bra is a political
Hmm.
statement,
Hmm.
or a woman wearing clothing that exposes her like midriff that may not be taut or thin, and how
Right.
that is a statement about body acceptance. Like it's crazy that like you would think that someone wearing something as simple as like clothing to make them cool in the summer would like be a statement, but then when you see the sort of backlash that people who are, let's say, in this particular moment, like people who are bigger, like people will actually ask them like, why are you wearing that? Well, because it's
Hmm.
fucking hot and I don't want to burn up, so I'm wearing a tank top. Like, why is it
Right.
your business? Or like, why are you even concerned about it? Like, let me live my life. And it's like takes bravery for people, I think, that um are of particular size, or don't fit into a mold to wear certain types of clothing, and have that bravery to like go into society and like just exist and be in, like, okay, yeah, I'm wearing little shorts and I have big thighs, like who cares? And
Hmm.
it's so like based, I think, in like misogyny, and that like women's worth is like based on how men are attracted to them, and if they're not attractive
Yeah.
then they're not valuable. But then you start to, I mean, and it's not just that, like you see that like that same standard is applied to men, like not in the same way, but I can say that like, from my perspective, like I've felt somewhat of a similar sentiment when it comes to wearing clothes, where it's like, okay, you can't wear certain things because like you don't have a right to wear it because you're not in shape. And it's
I
like,
hear you. Yeah.
who's the gatekeeper to like who gets to wear what? Like, I
Hmm.
want to wear what I want to wear because like one, maybe I like the way it looks, or I feel comfortable in it, or maybe it's because I do want to make a fashion statement, or I want to look avant-garde or cool or whatever you say. Um and I think when it comes to fashion, like there needs to be less gatekeepers and people who are just like embracing and like cheerleaders for other people. Like if you see someone that looks cool, be like, you look fucking cool. And if
Yeah,
it's
just tell
not
them. Yeah.
what you like, if it's not to your taste, you don't have to say anything.
Right,
Like I
but you
know
don't
that
have to
that's
make a negative
really
comment. Yeah, just
brutal. Right. All right, so kind of keeping within theme about the fashion industry or fashion in general, one question that kind of came to my mind was, is there anyone that right now that you feel is like really fashionable or really of the moment that you would, as a photographer, love to work with and to photograph?
Well, I mean, I thought about this, and I always think about this, and who would I like to work with, and what kind of like fashion icons or stars that I would really love to capture, and I always keep coming back to Lady Gaga because her style and she has her own makeup line, so it's just being able to capture her face and her fashion, everything, and she's just an icon who I think I would love to work with,
Yeah,
and going back, I always like working with musicians because I think they're so creative and so expressive. And I think so any musician really I would love to work with. But if you ask me one person, it would be Lady Gaga. Of course,
yeah,
she's just like I think right now heads above anyone else out there. And I mean, could make a strong case for also working with like J Lo because she's a icon in herself. And I'm sure there's many others, but it always comes back to
yeah.
Lady Gaga. So yeah, my answer is Lady Gaga. Now, if it was the let's just flip it a little bit and say what men I would like to work with, I'd probably have to say like The Rock right now
Okay.
because he not just because he's a huge personality and person to work with. I think he has a very um, he's very keen on his style sense and his style choices.
Yeah.
From wearing a suit, the suits that I see him wearing, some of his photo shoots and how he can pull off any number of looks and he's so expressive with his face, and I think that's one of the things that I really enjoy when I'm working with people photographing them is that they're very expressive even with their eyes to their smile just to everything and not just be very
Yeah.
deadpan, but and I think that's what he brings a lot to the table is that. So Lady Gaga and The Rock, get them together on one photo shoot for me, I'll be very happy. Can you pull that off?
Yeah, I mean, those are great choices. I think you probably stole my Lady Gaga answer, which I think is sort of like a hate crime because like the straight guy keeps saying Lady Gaga like over every question we go over. So next time I'm gonna have to answer first so I can say Lady Gaga before you.
I
But
can
you
change
did
my
pick
answer.
two
I mean, I
very
have more.
you picked two very creative and charismatic people, so I think that they would be great people. I mean, I would love to work with them. One person that came to my mind was The Weeknd. He's actually, I think he's on the
Okay, yeah.
inaugural, the cover of the inaugural issue of GQ International, and so I guess it's like a new magazine that they're putting out that's not just
Okay.
GQ US or GQ London. So it's like international, which kind of a couple different things. So one question is like, is fashion universal? Is what's fashionable in like Italy and England also what's
Mm,
fashionable
mhm.
here? So I think that's kind of interesting. But the thing that I like about him is that he seems so like effortless in his fashion, like someone who it just like wears clothes really well, but his personality comes out still through it. He doesn't seem like he's like hiding behind the fashion. He's wearing it, not letting the fashion wear him, which is like a cliche thing to say, but like I think that it rings true within his case. And he's just like a very good looking person. I think he has like amazing style. He is a great singer. I like his art, his musicality, his
His music's
voice.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so that would be my choice as like I guess like a dude if I was gonna take a picture of a guy. Since you probably took one of my answers, another person that I would love to shoot would be like let's say if we're sticking to actors and actresses. God, there's so many. I would probably say Angelina Jolie because I think she's
Mm,
like
mhm.
her face is like literally like one in a million. Like when you think of like a star, like someone who is like a Hollywood star, that's who comes to my mind. Um, just
Right.
with the perfection that is her face. I think she's just an amazing, beautiful person. Like she's like Helen of Troy. Like her beauty like inspires people, and I think that uh, she's really powerful. Like I think she exudes strength and emotion and uh I would just love to be able to photograph her and like really do like a portrait of her and like have a moment with her and like sit down and get to know her and then like do something very collaborative and you know share like her person because she is a very private person. So I think
Hmm.
when she chooses to show that part of herself, like it's really beautiful and amazing. And
Right.
she obviously is like very fashionable, like wears like amazing clothes too. But yeah, those would be my kind of the two first people that I come to think of.
Can I add on to my list? I would like. I was just thinking about it too. Zazie Beetz.
Yeah,
I think she would be a phenomenal actress to shoot. I mean, just her style is just so elegant. Well, not elegant, but just so casually graceful.
yeah.
Um, and also Benicio Del Toro. I think he'd be really fun to shoot.
Yeah, I think he would be fun to work with because he's a weirdo, and it would be fun. Like, yeah, I don't know if you've ever done this, but like you like, let's say you think of like, okay, if I was in a circle in Hollywood, like, who would I be cool with? Like, who would I
Mm-hmm.
like really
Whose
have
circle would I
fun
want to
with?
join?
Like, I think Benicio del Toro is like one of them. Like, I just think
Yeah.
he's like a cool guy, and like it would be really cool to like party with him or like be friends with him. Angelina Jolie, I would love to like Gwen Stefani. I think is another person I think that's just like really cool. Drew
Mm-hmm.
Barrymore. I mean, there's like a million people that I would love to work with and like shoot, but uh, I mean, I would jump at the opportunity to like shoot any of those people. I think they're all amazing.
I
There
think
was someone. Who was
get
the
me
other
into
person you
a
said? It was who did you say right now? Benicio del Toro.
uh,
Who's the other one? Oh,
Zazie
Zazie Beetz.
Beetz.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I agree with that. The other person that I think that is really like just amazing and it talk about like going to be like a huge star or like is Zendaya. I think
Mm-hmm.
she's like super gorgeous. She's really
Yeah.
smart. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and really amazing fashion sense. Like again, someone who is able to put on these like amazing outfits that are like couture, fashion designers, but like it doesn't cover her up. It's not like covering her personality. She shines through the fashion
Right. Right.
and she uses the fashion to express herself, but like her personality still comes out. And so like that's what I love about her. So she would be on the top of my list too, for sure.
Definitely. I agree with
Are,
that. I was gonna
are
say
there
her,
any
but
designers that you're like a fan of? Like, is it like a style that you would say that you're a fan of, or like are there particular designers that you like that like let's say again like that we would want to work with it like you would be like oh I want this person to wear this designer or are you more of like a vibe?
I think more of a vibe because I probably could tell you maybe a few names of designers. I don't
Yeah,
really, even as a fashion photographer, I just go with the look and feel of things
yeah,
as opposed to oh that's that person. But I mean, just like off the top of my head, I know for me and just my own style, what I like is like any designs by like Burberry or Coach. You know the classic
yeah.
think Mad Men style of design. I think that what appeals to me if I were going to play dress up, I guess so to speak.
Yeah.
That style and sense really appeals to me, and I like that clean cut, the very um, classic looking, I guess you would say. Also, now if I want someone to wear something, I think Betsy Johnson's dresses are really fun and very colorful,
Yeah.
and so I would like to shoot some of her gowns, I guess.
Nice. It's kind of cool that you said that because I just made a post, I don't know, maybe a week ago of like, how, what did I title it? Like fashion icons or like fashion goals. And it was a picture of Betsy
Hmm.
Johnson and George Clinton, the lead singer of Parliament Funkadelic.
Oh,
And
okay. Uh
they're
huh.
both people that like I've always admired for the same reason of they exude like a sort of confidence and like out of fucks to give when it comes to how people view them. Like you can just see that they're like happy in who they are. Like they both have like
Hmm.
crazy hair, very creative hair. They both dress like with the sense of like a mishmatch of mishmash of styles. Sort of like it comes together, but it's like so specific to them. Like you
Yeah.
can't really see a
Yeah.
lot of people that would be look good dressed like that. And I think that that's where like my dream fashion sense would be that like if I could have the bravery or like I guess the guts to dress a certain way, like I like people that take fashion but like kind of mix it into like a punk rock like sort of aesthetic like
Right. Yeah.
like Gwen Stefani is a really good example of that, or someone like Johnny Depp, I think has really good style of like taking like really classic like designers, but then like kind of like throwing in some rock and roll elements to it, and making it a little bit more like hip than classic. I
I
think
think
like
Lenny Kravitz for me
yeah,
does
Lenny
that
Kravitz too for sure.
perfect. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I think
there's
if I
some
would like
really
to
cool
dress like,
designers like Vivienne Westwood, or like, and they're not afraid to wear like deconstructed clothing. Or another one is John Varvatos is a really great designer that does that. Works with a lot of rock and roll bands or
that's true.
people,
Uh-huh.
and he has a really cool store too. We went in Soho. We went to his store in New York, and at the time, like, I mean, it's crazy expensive. So I was like, oh, I'll buy his brand of like Chuck Taylor Converse from like Nordstrom Rack on sale. But like those are like the kind of designers that like if I was rich and if I had like a size whatever body, like I would probably try to wear like John Varvatos is probably one of my favorite designers for men. That would
Hmm.
fit like my dream aesthetic or dream style if I had, if I could say that. But yeah, I think that I tend to go towards like the more rock and roll aspect of fashion, like that's
Right.
not so clean cut. That's a little bit more, you know, dangerous when it comes to fashion.
I think, yeah, for in that style of thinking, I think the brand, what's it, Rockin' Republic,
Hmm.
fits that kind of mold for me. I don't own any of their stuff, but I really like it whenever I see it. So, but
Yeah,
I think it's really cool. I mean, I like how they mix in their different textures on their clothing with from like the little, punk rock looking like little um I don't even know what you call them,
embellishments.
studs and stuff,
Yeah.
embellishments. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, I think that that's like one of the cool things that like from our generation of being like Gen Xers and being from that like 90s alternative, is, which I still do, is like going thrift store hunting and like looking for vintage stuff is
Right.
so part of our generation. And I think that like I like that about us because
It's just
um
because our parents were poor. No. No,
because
I'm just playing.
it like it it's I do love fashion. Like I really like, like I said, those particular designers, but it being so expensive, like it's such a great way to like go and recycle that fashion by going to like a thrift store
Hmm.
like a Buffalo Exchange here in San Diego
Right.
and finding something that it fits your style, but is also, not expensive and not breaking your bank. And you have the ability to kind of dress in that, fantasy of like Lenny Kravitz style, but not necessarily have
Hmm.
to spend like thousands of dollars. Which is kind of cool, which I think makes it even cooler that you didn't spend that much money. You didn't buy that
Hmm.
look. You didn't just walk into a store and have like a personal shopper like pull it out for you, like that you had to kind of work for it.
I think that's the whole
And
punk rock movement that you're talking about there, though. They went into stores and they made their own stuff. They didn't go into a Hot Topic or something and buy it, for like the mall kids or whatever. It's stuff that they put the blood and sweat into, and they crafted it and they customized it to fit their own personality.
yeah.
So yeah, I think
It's
that
admirable.
that
Like
is
I wish
true.
that I had more of that sense to be able to. I mean, I think now that I've like lost weight, I can kind of go back to that again, where I'm like, finding cool like I don't know. I went through a phase where I was like getting like old vintage like cowboy shirts or Hawaiian shirts, because you can always find like really cool old ones at like vintage stores. And then, but like at a certain point, like I outgrew those sizes. So it's like, okay, I need to go buy like a Walmart T-shirt that's like a 4X because like your options are limited when you're a certain size, which is sad that like you don't have many options. But yeah, like now I can kind of and I honestly that was like part of my motivation of losing weight. Number one being health, but like a close
Hmm.
second was being able to have the freedom to like look the way you want to look and have the options to buy the clothes that you want to wear and buy. Like
Right.
it's sort of like Pretty Woman, where like she comes in and is like, "I have money to spend. Like, why can't I spend this money?" Like a lot of times I felt like that. We're like, "I have good money. I want to buy clothes. You guys just don't make the clothes for me." Like big mistake. And then like coming, going to the
Big
big
mistake.
McCall store and being like,
Huge.
huge mistake.
Hmm. I watched the speaking of Pretty Woman, and on Netflix they have the Movies That Made Us series, and that was one of them. So I thought that was really fun to watch and see
Movies
how
that
the
made us.
yeah, it's a
Nice.
series. It's kind, remember the show The Toys That Made Us on Netflix, where they did
Oh,
the
okay. Yeah,
movies
yeah,
that made us, and it's basically just recanting stories of how Pretty Woman was made and everything that it went through with Gary Marshall and all the rewrites from the original writer through how many progressions it went through and how they got how they always wanted Julia Roberts to play Vivian in that, and how they had to kind of convince Richard Gere to get on board with it. But it's fascinating. It's a really cool watch,
yeah.
and how Gary Marshall did not like Jason Alexander, did not want him to be in that role, but they kind of were stuck with him because they couldn't find anyone else. So
Oh,
it's
really?
pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah,
But he was the
it's really
perfect
cool.
like heel. Like you hated him. Like he
Hmm.
fit that character so well.
Well,
So,
the reason they said it, and Jason Alexander says this, was that Gary Marshall, because the height difference between Jason Alexander and Richard Gere was so much, they thought, and Touchstone is Disney's property, or Disney's adult, I guess, movie making side, not adult, but
there's
but
another version of Pretty Woman out there, but
right. But it's they didn't it looked like Richard Gere when he punches the character in the movie. Gary Marshall thought it would look like he would be punching a dwarf, and Disney really had a thing for dwarfs at the time, so it's Snow White and everything, so
yeah.
they didn't want that look and whatnot. It's really cool, really
So
cool seeing all
what
the
did they put him on a box?
they it's funny that you say that. Yeah, they actually went, I think, the casting director and Jason Alexander and one other person met, and they actually filmed him sitting on some like books and stuff, and to make him appear a little bit taller. So that way, they showed the real footage to Gary Marshall, and that's what kind of convinced him. Okay, fine. If we do some, camera tricks, it'll be okay.
Wow, that's really funny.
Yeah,
They
it's
didn't
pretty
want to
cool.
hit a little person. That's funny. I guess that's good.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I love that movie. It's such a classic, like all the lines from it. And it was like the movie that like really made everyone, like all of America, fall in love with Julia Roberts. Like it's such a
Yeah,
good role
definitely
for
made
her.
her a
Like,
star.
it was perfect. Yeah. So anything else that you had on your list of pop culture?
Well, another thing that I'm excited about, and I won't get into it too much today because I want to kind of save it maybe for another episode, is Hulu and FX are teaming up together to produce or to distribute Taiki Waititi's new created show, Reservation Dogs. And it's a really cool show. I was just watching the preview of it, and it's what's really the thing that stood out to me the most about it. And if you don't know, it's basically it's how can I describe it? It's about four teenagers, all indigenous Native Americans set in Oklahoma, but all the cast member, all the crew members, writers, directors are all also indigenous. So it's all held within there. So that's what I thought was really cool about it. So I look forward to seeing that. Look forward to watching the show and just getting a sense of what it's about.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've actually haven't even heard of that. So that I'm really excited to see more about that because talk about an underrepresented part of our society. I mean,
Hmm.
there's like I could probably count on one hand how many films or shows there are about indigenous people that were made from an indigenous person's perspective. I can think of
Right.
Smoke Signals, which was a really great movie with Irene Bedard. If you haven't seen that, it's really good. But yeah, very few films, so I can't wait to see that.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. I think that's all I have for
Cool.
this
Yeah,
week.
I think that's all I had that was kind of like on my mind, or that anything that I wanted to kind of talk about or upset me this week. I think I
Upset me
got it
this
all off
week.
of my chest.
The show is going to now be called "What Upset Gabe This Week."
I know. It totally like I honestly try to limit the amount of times that I say hate and my because I say it a lot. And I think that it's very off-putting to people because they're like, "Wow, you really hate a lot," or like, "Oh yeah, we know you hate blah blah blah." But I'm just like, I feel so strongly about things that I can't help but say, like, I love something or I hate it. Like, there's no middle ground with
Hmm.
me. Like, there's no like, oh, I'm like, you know, I don't know. That's just the kind of person that I am. So if I don't like something, I hate it. If I like it, I love it. It's the
There you go.
Virgo aspect of my personality, I guess. I don't know. You know what? That'd be a really good a really good guest for us to have is an astrologer. And like
Ooh,
us not
interesting.
give them any information about them and like see if they can read us. I think that'd be really interesting.
That'd be fun.
I don't know if you're like morally against seeing a psychic or astrologer. I probably should have asked that, but like
No, I'm not morally
with
against
our
it. I just
hearts.
with it. I always told myself if I ever walked into a psychic, the first words out of their mouth better be, "I've been waiting for you." And if it's not, or I've been expecting you, and if it's not that, I'm just gonna turn around and leave
That
because
was such a dad joke.
it is.
Bringing
Oh well.
the good dad joke material on our Gen X show, breaking all the stereotypes.
Well, come on, all Gen Xers are getting toward that time in their life where they got to come up with dad jokes, or at least
Be corny.
be knowledgeable of them.
Yeah, I'm. Age is nothing but a number. I'm trying to remind myself as my bed, like literally as my bedtime reminder goes off at 10 o'clock. Age is nothing but a
Ten
number.
o'clock
Oh, it's
bedtime.
to go to bed. It's 10 p.m. That's hilarious. Anyway, with
Okay.
that,
With that being said, we got to sing a goodnight song to Gabe as he drifts off into sleepy time.
yeah,
Thank you everyone for tuning in, for sharing, for supporting. We appreciate all of your feedbacks, your comments, your support. We really do appreciate your support. Yeah, tune in next week. Listen to this one, share it out, invite your friends, and we'll see you then.
thanks everyone.